So legally, I can go home.
No, you cannot.
Why?
Because you're being Baker acted.
It's a violation of my civil rights. It's disgusting.
A South Florida woman is taking legal action after she says she spent nearly 2 weeks in mental health institutions for no legitimate reason.
I felt betrayed by the very same system that's designed to protect me.
She claims in a recently filed lawsuit that it was orchestrated by her own mother.
So she's the CEO of Roc Nation, a company that she owns along with Sean Carter, the famous rapper Jay-Z.
They were even showing up at my husband's nephew's school and surveilling the children.
He's over there right now waiting for her to show up. He's going to bake her out.
Please do not send any hate or honestly comments of any kind to anyone mentioned in this video on behalf of me or yourself. The purpose of this video is to give my commentary and opinion on matters of public concern. Thank you.
Imagine you wake up one day. Your phone's been hacked and cloned. Someone can see every one of your pictures, every one of your videos, every one of your messages. They can use your iCloud to log into all your accounts, including your bank account, and they can track your every move. Now imagine the hacker's location traces to Roc Nation, several states away, and your mom is the CEO there. Now, imagine that same mother has planted a hidden camera in your bedroom, facing the bathroom. She's lied about you to the cops. She conspired with your boss to get you locked up against your will, and then filed to take legal control over your life. Demoree Hadley thought the worst thing a mother could do was walk away, but she was wrong. Her mother never really left. She followed, and then she struck. Demoree claims she was being watched. She claims she was being followed. She claims she was lured to a marina and forced by police officers under threat of arrest to get into a mysterious unmarked pickup truck with strangers she had never met. When she tried to tell the truth, she was ignored. When she kept trying to tell the truth, they tried to silence her. You might be wondering, what was her crime? What did she do that was so bad? Well, other than being an adult disobeying her mother, it was dating a black man. This federal lawsuit reads like a thriller. Unlawful detentions, allegations of wiretaps, perjury, fake therapists, phony interventionists, and a woman who has never done a drug in her life, fighting to prove she's not an addict. So if you can't tell, today's video is a little different. I normally don't do interviews on this channel unless it's a very special circumstance, but sometimes the mainstream media, the actual journalists, the actual news isn't really doing their job. They're not really bringing forth some stories that I think need a lot of attention. And this is one such story. If you've been following the channel, you know I've spent years covering how systems of power can be used to trap people, weaponized even, to trap people under the guise of help and protection. Now, this tactic often requires the victim's parents or other family members to be directly involved. We saw this with Brittany, we saw it with Bam, and today, we're seeing it again. What you're about to hear is a first-hand account from someone who says her own mother, who happens to be the CEO of Roc Nation, allegedly used money, power, influence, connections, and even the legal system, lawyers, law enforcement, to try and take over her adult daughter's life. We're talking allegations of illegal surveillance, forced psychiatric holds, and a push for a conservatorship/guardianship, because they're the same thing, over a fully grown, fully competent woman with no mental health history. This is a story about family, about power, and about how systems designed to supposedly help people can sometimes be turned into weapons. And just like Brittany and Bam, Demoree says it wasn't because she was a danger to herself, but it was because she wouldn't fall in line. This is a personal story, but it's not just a personal story. It's also about how power can be abused when it's absolutely unchecked. Demoree says her own mother used her power and the law to have her falsely and illegally locked up. She spied on her in her own bedroom, and she was nearly placed in a guardianship. Now, before we get into it, nothing in this video is legal advice. These are all allegations made by Demoree. Based on her firsthand experiences, I'm going to allow her the space to say these things, but I certainly wasn't there. I don't know. And everyone is innocent until proven guilty in a court of law or until proven liable in a civil court. Okay. Now, most of the allegations and most of the things that Demoree is going to say here have been memorialized in a federal complaint, which we will insert some clips of as we move along, just to provide the receipts. Don't come for me. Okay. With all that said, let's get into it. Thank you so much for coming. It was really good getting to know you before we came on today. And also, I'm just so sorry to hear about all the stuff that you've been going through. It doesn't particularly surprise me or shock me because I've seen it, but wow. I usually am not actually getting to talk directly to people who have been through this. So thank you so much for taking your time. I'm sure you have other stuff to be doing tonight to educate people about this and to kind of get it out there, what you've been through. So thank you so much, Demoree, for coming by.
Thank you for the platform. I appreciate your research, and I appreciate you caring enough to share it on your platform.
Any time. So I just have literally like a list of questions. I was reading through that lawsuit. There will be a separate video of me kind of going through the complaint, and I understand you've now filed a second complaint as an amendment to your first one. So I haven't even had a chance to check in on that one. But I was reading through it, and it just reads like you really can't even write something like that. You know, you can't even make it up. It's like, how do these people, got to give them one thing, they creative, you know. They could come up with some stuff. They can come up with some things.
Yeah.
So from that, I had a few questions, and I want to kind of give you the floor and let you talk about whatever you think is important, needs to be talked about, because this is something I've covered, but I've never experienced it and I've never been through it. Seems like something it's not anybody wants to go through. So I guess let's start here. From your perspective, what was the first, or like maybe one of the first earliest moments where you realized that your mom, your own mother, was using her influence and her power to try to truly control your life?
So I would say the first incident that made me realize that was when my then boyfriend, who's now my husband, was arrested for the very first time on December 30th, 2023. Because later, through discovery and hiring an investigative team, I found out that they didn't have any probable cause to make an arrest, but they went ahead and did it based off of power, influence, phone calls, emails, you name it, to the state attorney's office in Florida. So that's when it really struck me. You know, as a normal person living a very low-key life out of the media, and having a mother as being the CEO of Roc Nation, a huge corporation, right? Dealing with a lot of high-profile people, I've always come across people like talking bad or, putting them in a bad light. But of course, as a naive, not really woke daughter of a high-profile individual, it all just seemed like conspiracy theories, right? When I would see reports or YouTubers talk about some of the things that, they thought that was going on and stuff like that. And it wasn't really until it happened to me and until I saw my husband in handcuffs in front of our 3 nephews, ages 2, 6, 8, and 10, who had to witness their uncle getting arrested at a farm, a children's farm.
I did see that. That was awful.
That situation, that traumatic situation really, really changes your life. And that's when I saw, okay, she has power. She really does have power.
I got chills on the back of my head because I did see that, and it was like such an evil perversion of such a sweet and nice, wholesome little, seemingly like nice time y'all were having out there at the petting zoo or whatever. I'm like, wow, that she sent them over there to that place knowing. Oh, man.
Well, they did a fake 911 call saying I was being abducted. That's why police responded so quickly.
Oh, my God. And I loved it. You were going, do you have a warrant?
Yeah.
Do you have a warrant for his arrest?
Yeah.
I was like, yes, ask for that warrant. Oh, my God.
No, and that's clipped. If you see the full body cam, which I'm sure that's going to be released. I have to see, but I mean, the kids are crying. I'm crying at the end. It's very bad, and it takes an evil person. You could have picked any day to fake a 911 abduction call. You could have picked any day. You picked that day intentionally, knowing that we were with the children. There was no need to do that to kids. Everybody knows, right, in all types of codes of life, professional capacity and an informal capacity, kids are untouchable. Don't hurt kids.
And that's off limits, supposed to be.
Yeah. So that was, again, that's where it started, and that's where I really saw the power, and it was just so wrong and disgusting.
Oh, man. So What's something that you wish people understood more or at all about how easy it is to weaponize these well-meaning laws? I mean, a lot of people think if they're being used for the right reasons, okay, fine. But we learned in your lawsuit, and we saw you put the receipts right there, the exhibits right there. You did a hair follicle test at the insistence of you, and good shout out to you advocating for yourself, saying, no, I need to take this test because I'm telling you every single line. It wasn't not one, like, not didn't even say yes for Tylenol. Wasn't even an NSAID in that hair follicle, y'all. And here we are, locked up, can't get out. What is something you wish people understood more about how easy it was for you to just be at the farm and then your husband's getting arrested, one thing leads to another, this thing's used, and then now you're incarcerated medically?
So that's a very good question, right? It's actually really scary because, first of all, I don't eat meat. I don't drink soda. I live a very, I would say, holistic life. I eat very healthy. I've never in my life done drugs, and that's intentionally. I come from a background where both of my parents were drug traffickers. That caused them to not be in my childhood as much as I wanted them to be. I was raised by a phenomenal grandfather who I love to death, who I owe my whole entire childhood to, really. But you know, being a kid and going through the trauma of not having your mom at every recital, or, you know, being there to tuck you in at night, or a dad or whatnot. Once I was older to understand why they weren't around, and it was because, you know, they were selling drugs. I mean, it wasn't just they were selling drugs. I mean, they were head of cartels, and my mom was a federal informant, and this is all public information, so that's why I'm sharing this. And it's not to throw anybody under the bus or anything like that. This is just what I experienced, right? So that was traumatic for me as a child. And so when I found out, you know, oh, mom and dad weren't around because X, Y, and Z, I made it a point to be like, I am never going to touch a drug, because when I have kids, I don't want X, Y, and Z to be the reason that I'm away from them. And why would I participate in ingesting things that potentially will hurt me and will potentially change the outcome of my life, right? That's how I really feel about. And it's not to throw anybody in the bus who has an illness and uses drugs as a coping mechanism. But I understand that that's a mental illness. I understand people use it sometimes to numb themselves. Me personally, I've never, and I'm lucky, I've never been in a dark space where I felt that I needed to resort to drugs. And I think it's just because I really started hating, because you have to understand, as a little girl, like, well, why can't mom be here? Why can't dad be here? Oh, it's because they were involved in this. So my enemy, really, it was crazy. In my head as a child, I framed drugs as the enemy, but really they should have known better, right? As adults and parents, like, you have a child at home, like, why are you selling drugs? Like, but I was looking for something to blame. And so psychologically, I was blaming drugs. And so it was so drastic that I've never, and any friend that you ask, anybody that you call in, they can subpoena whoever. I've never drunk alcohol in my life. That's how drastic it is. Like, I can't even resist the smell of alcohol. It's just like a trigger. Like, I just go back to my childhood and I just associate alcohol and drugs to my parents. And I see it as like the public enemies, right? And so I've always been in my friend group as the mom, like the designated driver, because I've never done any type of drug. So imagine. And then I went to school for sociology, a social work. I went to Boston University. Like, I worked with survivors of torture, human trafficking, domestic violence. I worked for unaccompanied minors. Like, I have a bulk of experience. I've seen the devastations of what drugs can do to people. And so for me to end up in a hospital, which I've never also had a history of wanting to kill myself. That's very important, because the Baker Act is not just for drugs, but it's also for severe mental illnesses and if you're a harm to yourself or others. I've never been a harm to myself or others, never had a mental illness. So imagine, I felt so betrayed. Like, that's the word. I felt betrayed by the very same system that's designed to protect me, the system that I took my clients to who were suicidal. Like, how full circle is it where I worked my whole entire life, and I want people to understand this, and my personal close friends understand this about me because they know me. I worked so hard to never end up in handcuffs, to not use a drug, to not drink, to not be in the seat that took my parents away from me, and to be accused of that, and to be in a psych ward with
Treated as guilty, accused and charged and convicted.
and my talk screens are negative, and they're seeing scientific evidence to prove that the so-called reports of me trying to OD the night before are false because my talk screens are negative. And what people don't know, I haven't lived with my mother since 2017. This is public record. And the day that I got Baker acted, March 27, 2024, the last time I saw my mom was 6 months prior. December 25th, 2023 was the last physical time I was with my mother. And the last time I spoke to her was December 30th, 2023.
I don't talk to her. Yeah, I didn't know. I don't even have a relationship with her. Like, I didn't know you had mentioned anything to her.
So for Dr. Daniel Bolbar to say, we got a call that the night before you tried to OD in front of family, how, if I wasn't physically living with family since 2017, specifically my mother, and I wasn't even in communications with her or the so-called two witnesses, one being a Roc Nation assistant by the name of Natalie Anderson, and another one being in aunts. I hadn't been in communication with them since December 30th, 2023. 6 months later to say the night before, where are the ambulance reports that I tried to OD? There should be an ambulance. Where's the police report? Because it didn't exist. So now I'm going to a hospital. You're seeing my talk screens are negative, and I'm still not being let go. So I want people to know this is scary. If it happened to me, it can happen to you. I lived a very purposeful life, like very purposeful life. I don't want to get emotional. To not end up there. I understand if I actually needed it, because I've taken clients to hospitals who have been suicidal. If I needed it, then okay, by all means. But the fact that I didn't need it and there wasn't any proof and it happened, it's scary. And it's a violation of my civil rights. It's disgusting. And it shows how easy it is to abuse. Not only, we know that you can abuse the criminal justice system, obviously, but it's scary when you can abuse and manipulate doctors and facilities and hospitals, because our healthcare should be the most important thing, right? When people say, like, what's your number one wish? Is a long life, health. So if we can manipulate the healthcare system, that's scary. And that's what I want people to know from my story.
Yeah, that's really powerful. I know what you mean about going out of your way to avoid doing certain things and then just getting treated like that anyway. It's like you just put yourself back in all those times that you were like, no. And it's like you're betrayed by the systems like you trusted and you're in. You know, you've taken clients there. I think they even call it institutional betrayal. It's like an actual thing. So talking a little bit, right, of the pain, the suffering, the harm that the misuse of these types of laws and these types of systems, the weaponization even, I should say, beyond misuse. We know it's harmful. But do you think that your mother ever saw what she was doing as harmful? Like, do you think she truly believes she was helping you?
That's a very deep-rooted question, and I'm going to answer it to the best of my abilities, because what I also want people to know is this happened last year, but this has been a long journey of healing and trying to understand and wrap my head around understanding how the one person that society teaches you is supposed to love you more than anyone could do something like this to you. So this is something that I am working on trying to understand, but from my deep thinking, meditation, and prayer, because I am a very spiritual person. I do believe in God, and just sitting with God and sitting with everything that has happened and dealing with the trauma and everything that I went through. I know that my mom is a narcissist. She's a very narcissistic person. She feeds off of power, control, being in charge, having a voice, controlling things. She's a huge control freak. That's very much how she's been my whole entire life. And when you're dealing with a person who's a narcissist, who's controlling and who feeds off of power and control, it's like gaslighting, right? When they say like, oh, like, you know, the typical abuse situation is a man abusing a woman. People think it's just that, but really it can be a woman, it could be a parent. It doesn't have to be a spouse. Domestic violence does not mean like boyfriend and girlfriend or husband and wife. It could mean mom and dad, sister and brother. And I think people don't realize that because it's not spoken upon enough, right? People just assume, oh, your parents are there to love and protect you. There's this societal norm on parents, right? And so that's why I think it's important that I'm speaking up, because I know that there's other people out there that don't have that beautiful, picture perfect societal norm relationship with their parent. So to go back to your question, sorry, because I was getting off track there. She's a narcissist. So a narcissist, what do? They gaslight. They can be very abusive. They can be very manipulative. They can perform and do and say a lot of manipulative tactics to psych you out, like make you think you're crazy when really they're crazy. So I think deep down inside, she knows for sure that I do not have a drug addiction, that there's nothing wrong with me. But I think she almost like in her head tries to convince herself like, oh, I'm the victim, poor me. Like, why would my daughter go against me? Like, why would she sue me? Like, I just did all of this because in a weird way, she probably thinks like, oh, like she's best with me. I know what's best for her. So it's not necessarily that I think no, my mom knows that I've never done drugs. My mom knows that I don't have a mental illness. She knows that 1000%. I just think because she got caught, she has to keep that narrative of, oh, I was concerned. But I think deep down inside, it's more like, it's like, I want to control Demoree. I did this to have all rights and control over Demoree. And then her convincing herself mentally, right? Because I do think she has a psychological issue, because it's not normal for somebody to do all of this. And a lot of narcissists and people who are abusive, right? There's something there. I'm not a doctor, but there's something there that's off, right? Mm-hmm. And so I think in a weird way, she's like lies to herself and tries to convince herself, oh, well, even though I want power and control over Demoree and I'm forcing it through legal and illegal ways, it's okay because I deserve this, because I financially supported her when she needed it growing up. Even though I wasn't physically there, I still did my best to financially support. So it's okay that I did this. I feel like she makes justifications in her head. I don't know if I'm making sense. Like, I think she makes justifications in her head for what she lacks. And then I think she convinced and almost lied to herself, like, oh, well, I did this because I need to control her because I know what's best. But not necessarily that she really believes that I'm a victim, or she really believes that I'm abusing drugs, or she really believes. She definitely does not. Because if that was the situation, my husband and I have been together since we were 14 years old. She's known him from 14 to 30. We're 30 years old. He's been very active in family events, very active in everything. No mother, if she really believed that their daughter was being abused, would have him around that much, number one. Number two, she knows I've never done drugs before. By the way, I even submitted to the court 10 years of like my own personal medical history, which I didn't have to do.
Right.
Just to prove it. Just to prove it. She knows that because, she's booked my appointments when I was under 18 and saw, like, she knows it. She's never had an issue with me on that. And then as far as the mental illness, she knows it too. So I just think like, it's just her trying to convince herself it was justified, but not that she actually believes that I have a mental illness, or I wanted to kill myself, or that I do drugs, X, Y, and Z.
So she probably doesn't believe she's really helping you. Maybe we don't know. We're not inside her head.
We don't know.
But
it's like convinces herself, like, if that makes sense. You get what
I do.
It's like a girl who
dissonance.
You know how like when you're younger, you might have had a crush on somebody and then they don't answer you, but then you like come up with like this, like you make up your own scenarios in your head, like an example, right? Just from like a rom-com movie, or like examples that maybe a typical American will know growing up. Like, you know how like they say like, oh, women, you guys might make things up in your head or lie to yourselves. I literally feel like that's what she's doing.
It seems possible. Of course, we don't know. We were not inside there, but we can only speculate. So I wanted to also talk a little or a lot, who knows, we'll see how it goes, about some of this is something that really stood out about the lawsuit, the complaint that I've been able to read so far, the surveillance and the technology intrusions. You mentioned in the complaint that your iCloud was hacked and possibly your phone was cloned. What is going through your mind in these moments that you're like, were you shocked? Were you just like, oh yeah, typical? Or were you like, whoa, what were you thinking? One of your friends said that your phone location, you had shared your location with someone once or something, and they said your phone was in New York, but really you were over there in Florida.
Yes.
Am I getting it right?
Yes. So it's crazy because I didn't know. I might have had suspicions, and my husband definitely knew, but we didn't really have the proof. I didn't really get the proof until March 24th. Is it March 24th? Yeah, March 24th, 2024, because I was on a jog, and like many people, I share my location with my best friend, my husband, and like another friend, like for safety concerns, right? And I'm on the jog and I'm getting text messages and phone calls saying that my location is pinning to Roc Nation's address. And I'm like, what? Like, what? So I open the Find My, and it's, long and behold, it's saying that I'm at the Roc Nation location. So I'm like, well, how if I'm here in Miami jogging? Like, what is going on? So I called Apple, called AT&T, called anybody you can think of, my investigative team, everything. And we were able to discover that essentially somebody logged into my iCloud, allegedly my mother, right? Because who else in Roc Nation would want to go into my iCloud? I'm a nobody to their standards, right? And so somebody went into my iCloud, right? Downloaded, it literally said backup, and the date that they backed it up, backed up my whole entire information from my iCloud, and then logged into my iCloud from a second device and put all my information and had access to my basically everything. Because when you sign in, you know how you can sign in through your iCloud on your computer and then activate your iMessage and basically message, talk, call whoever in a laptop? This is what happened on that second device. It wasn't a computer. It registered as a second iPhone. So when I was on the phone with Apple support, and then I had to go to the Apple store, and everybody was trying to figure out what was going on, what was explained to me was that there was a second device that was not my device that was able to get into my iCloud, download all my information, back it up, and essentially was active on my phone through another phone, which my investigative team discovered, like it's what's called, they clone your phone. And
so they're basically like on a phone scrolling through, and like if you're on your phone, they can just look at it and see what you're doing.
Yeah, because not only that, they were able, so my iCloud is on my Apple Watch as well. So my Apple Watch was also pinning to Roc Nation, which I have screenshot proof of. So it not only could they know exactly where I was, but they could go in and send messages pretending to be me from another device. And then it goes so far, as into then my emails too. So like me and my husband's business emails were also pinning to Roc Nation. My personal emails were pinning to Roc Nation, because when you have somebody's iCloud, this is the mistake I made. I'm sure everybody does this. I have all my stuff on autofill saved passwords. So because I have it on autofill saved passwords, she got into the iCloud, or whoever got into the iCloud, they now can see all my saved passwords for all my applications. So
no,
like for instance, like DirecTV and AT&T had the Roc Nation, her assistant from Roc Nation, email and phone number listed as a second number to some of like my accounts. And so I was like, what? No, I need it removed. And because when you have access to the iCloud, you really have access to everything, especially if people don't save your passwords, just write them down. Like, don't do it, because I had everything, even our bank accounts. But the bank was amazing because they have to text the code and you have to approve it. So we were, because otherwise they could.
It's so aggravating going to the bank. Oh my God. But I always do think there's no way somebody could get into this bank account unless it's me. Like, there's just no way.
No, thank God that the bank has that extra security measure. But as far as emails, like even like the light bill they got into, it was just insane. And so
what's the point of them doing all that? What do you think? Getting information? Is it intimidation? I mean, I know you don't know. We don't know for sure, but just why?
Well, as far as the messages, I do know, because we were able to find out, and that's something that's on the amended complaint, that they hired and they had a sophisticated software that only like high-tech cybersecurity forensic people have access to. And they did what's called, the feds do this, they dumped my phone. So they did a phone dumping of my phone, put everything onto the software, and not only could manage my messages, but can manage the other person's messages. This is something that our investigative team has discovered, is going to present in court. You guys will see this later on.
Ooh, wow.
Without letting them know that we know, but they did a photo dumping. And so with stuff like that, with that technology, not only can you manipulate people's text messages, you can manipulate the other person's text messages. So that was used to say that, in my husband's case, to try to claim DV. So the beauty about that is I was able to prove, like with just putting out my phone and comparing the screenshot text with the dates, that the messages that were so-called screenshotted that my husband sent to me on my actual phone weren't the same message and the same convo. And so that was done to try to say that he was abusive, whatever, to charge him. That didn't go anywhere because luckily in the closeout memo, the state attorney said everything was questionable. A lot of the evidence was fabricated, not true. That's why they didn't pursue charges. And so thank God for our state attorney doing her investigation and her due diligence. But to answer your question, that was the motive. And then I also think the motive was control, right? I think it was, maybe they were trying to get access to other things to control, to intimidate. But they were really stupid about it. And shout out to Apple for having Find My and for having sometimes we get annoyed with the security checks and stuff, but it's how I discovered essentially that I was being hacked. And then to answer your question about the surveillance, she rented the house across the street from us, hired unlicensed and licensed private investigators to surveil us, and they were living there for months, watching us, following us. We have proof of this. It's not making this up, people. And the former BSO police officer James Fondo, who's on the Baker Act video that you guys see, he admits on body cam that he placed a GPS tracker in my car.
Well, I'm saying she's heading over here right now.
Need her or?
Yes, they have a GPS on her.
Sure.
So she should be driving by any minute.
So, very stupid.
Very stupid.
It feels crazy, right? It feels like, what the heck? It makes you be like, oh my God, am I paranoid? But then when you hire a team that can corroborate everything and you got receipts and you're able to fight for it in court, it feels good to know, like, okay, I'm not crazy and I'm not paranoid, and look at the extreme measures that people, as long as you have money, resources, and connections and politics, you can get away with a lot. Really, you can.
Yeah, and like an understanding. A lot of these people have such a good understanding of the laws, even though sometimes allegedly they break them innocent till proven guilty. They know the laws. They know which pressure points to push and how to maneuver to get what they want out of it. A lot of these times, and what I've seen.
No, and not only that, what people don't know is my mother went to law school, so she didn't.
I did not know that. Whoa.
Went to John Jay Law School, and she's going into criminal law, and so she knows the law. She's actually very smart with some of the things, not all.
Certainly,
she's savvy. She's savvy, right?
Savvy.
I'll give it to her, but sloppy.
Clever.
Yeah, clever. And then when you're hiring these big firms to essentially do your dirty work. So when you're hiring, and let me say allegedly, when you're hiring these firms, in my case, I can name the firms, and in my husband's case that are involved, Reed Smith, Quinn and Emanuel, all these high profile law firms, right? To represent you, right? A lot of people get intimidated by that and just assume because it's these high profile lawyers and these law firms that people are going to get away with things. But I'm just grateful I've had an amazing investigative team that's been able to fight back. And yeah, it happens. You know, when you have high profile attorneys, high profile law firms, a CEO of Roc Nation, somebody well connected with money and endless resources, a contract with the NFL. I mean, these are high profile individuals. It's sad, but that's all you need. It takes as easy as a phone call to make things happen. And so it's frightening. And, you know, it was crazy to think that she would have gone to that lengths to surveil me. And it honestly felt scary. It felt really scary because probably 90% of the people who were following me were men, grown men. with guns. Some that didn't have the correct licenses to be following with guns. They were following my husband. They were even showing up at my husband's nephew's school and surveilling the children. We have proof of that.
They need to leave those nephews alone.
Yeah, and so it's really scary because, you know, if they're doing it to us, I can't even imagine what's going on with other people, allegedly. So it's just scary.
So how long were the recording devices in your bedroom of your home before you noticed? And the way you found out they were in there was a frivolous lawsuit?
We were living with my grandfather before we moved. We did not know that there was, like, we knew about the cameras in the common areas because my grandfather, the reason why those cameras were installed was because so I moved in with my grandfather shortly after college because he got diagnosed with Alzheimer's. And so since he raised me, I was like, and I was clashing with my mom, I was like, let me move in with my grandfather to get away from her. And I can also take care of him, help him, and be with him because that's the man who raised me and that's the man who I love. And so when his Alzheimer's started progressing and taking care of him became a little bit too difficult with having a 9 to 5 and trying to have a normal life, she hired like help, like nurses, like not nurses, but people like to assist taking care of him. And so I suggested, well, you should put cameras in the common areas when I'm at work because with elderly people, especially with Alzheimer's, you see a lot of elderly abuse.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm not going to be home to supervise people when they're bathing him or something, I want to be able to see to make sure he's okay, right? And so the agreement was to put it, you know, in common areas where he was at predominantly, like a living room or the backyard, etc.
Right.
At no point did I consent or know that what a lot of people don't understand is that the audio that was manipulated and in that video, the camera that was shown was in our bathroom closets that faces the shower where we shower and the toilet where we use the toilet. At no point would I consent to that. Why would I consent to my mother possibly watching me shower or hear me? And the way that it was angled, even possibly seeing me have intimate relationships with my boyfriend at the time. Like, I don't understand.
Oh my gosh, that is so sick.
So no, I didn't consent to that. And
Right.
I didn't know about that until police were called on him on September 11th, 2023, which an arrest wasn't made because there was nothing happening. And that's a whole thing in itself, like the lying to police and having them come out. And the police was like, well, she said that she heard and saw you from a camera in your room. And I said, what? And the officer said, if I were you, I would move out of here because clearly they have a problem with you and your boyfriend and you're being watched. And so when the officer told me that, I mean, we were already out, like, I think 2 weeks after that. And so that was when the first time I found out about it. How long was it happening?
You don't even know.
I don't even know, which is scary.
That is a good segue because my very next question was actually, did any doctors or police try to speak up for you while this was happening? Or did it, I do know because I read in your complaint this happened many times where it was like, thank God there would be a nurse or a doctor or something. But what about the police at any point? I was going to ask, were they noticing what was going on or were they just kind of like, nope, just following orders? Like I saw some of the body cam. It looked like that's mostly what they were doing. But of course, I haven't seen almost even a little bit of it, right, compared to like what probably your interactions have been with both you and your now husband with all these frivolous police calls and different things, dealing with cops and law enforcement.
That's a very, very good question. So,
we just got to forward, like I said,
we're transporting, right? Or
our goal is for us to go with us. Like I said,
I doubt that is going to happen.
Be surprised. You'd be surprised. Once you tell it, listen, you're getting handcuffed, you go to a police car, you go with us, you're going to go to a received facility of your choice. Like, you guys do Halmore, right?
Yeah.
Usually these things are not, like, always so close to Hollywood. So we tell people, hey, so you're going to go to BGH, you're going to go to Jackson Moore, you're going to go to some shithole. You don't just go with us. You get out, you go with him, you talk to him, you might be home tomorrow. They usually go like, well, I don't want to go, but I'll go with you. Okay. Otherwise, they're going to handcuff you and put you in an unsanitary police vehicle and take you to a different facility, which I know it's this
should be behind the fucking car.
In reference to the Baker Act body cam that you guys saw snippet, police were 100% complicit with Dr.
They were like her own hired force. We'll put some clips in here.
You're saying you're going to detain me.
Ma'am, allow us to do the job so we can do this the easy way. Please let us.
Okay, I just don't want her to get back in her car, so.
But yeah, no, like signed, sealed, delivered, you were done. Like these people had their minds made up.
Yeah, so in the specific body cam that you guys saw for the Baker Act, it was Dr. Daniel Bovar.
I have 3 different collateral sources of information that say that she's been acting psychotic.
Stephen Caddy.
Who are you guys, sorry?
I'm sorry?
Who are you guys?
So we're a mobile crisis team working with Dr. Bova from Hollywood Memorial Hospital.
Okay,
so we
got
go
it.
out here, routinely conduct these mobile crisis things. What the goal is right now, he's going to Baker Act her, we're going to transport her. If she doesn't, then we have to work on plan B. So the doctor's made a determination, he wants to take you in for evaluation, right? You can come with me and the young lady right there. You won't be restrained, you won't be handcuffed. We'll drive you to the hospital. We'll take the dog with you. You can make arrangements when you get to the hospital as an older family member of yours. You can turn the dog over to her or anybody you say, right?
James Fondo.
Most of the time, it's not complicated like this.
And Jessica Caddy. And then Officer Jordan Dennis and Officer Joseph Reyes. I'm suing all of these people. This is public information. I feel comfortable saying it. And everybody should know who they are because they're terrible. They abducted.
And they're supposed to be working for we the people also and not locking us up without our constitutional rights being respected.
Exactly. So little background. So James Fondo is former Broward Sheriff Office police. He was actually demoted for planting cocaine on 2 African-American boys.
I remember you saying that. Oh my God.
Get up in the article. This is public information. He's the one who admits on body cam that he put a tracker in my car. He's the owner of a private investigation firm called Sig9. He owns it with Jessica Caddy and Stephen Caddy, who are married, Stephen Caddy used to also be Broward Sheriff Police as well. Jessica, no. They all 3 own Sig9. So they were there posing and pretending to be part of a mobile crisis unit for the hospital, Memorial Regional Hospital in Hollywood, which Memorial Regional Hospital in Hollywood does not have a mobile crisis unit. So they lied. Obviously, private investigators, they had a tracker in my car. They were obviously allegedly hired by my mom. And then Daniel Bovar, I've never met him, is a chief of the hospital where I was taken to the Baker Act, right? Called Memorial Regional Hospital in Hollywood. He's also the chief of life skills. And so they were all present. And then the 2 police officers.
Can't do it.
Ma'am, do you really want that dog to end up in a shelter tonight?
Because there's other dogs in the hospital. There's therapy dogs in the hospital. We can't bring the dog with us.
She is a therapy dog. You can ask her not to. And how does this? I don't know, but I think these are people that are.
So what people don't see in the full body cam, which I'm sure Jaguar Wright will release, and I can send that to you too, because I want it to circulate. I want people to see the full thing, because people are just disgusted with the snippet. I'm just like, you guys have not seen the whole thing.
I think I commented on one of your social medias yesterday, like, send me that. I want to do a live react.
You, because what people don't see, they see a snippet of James Fondo on the side of the road, letting them know, the police, what they're going to do. But he says, when police are like kind of skeptical and questioning, he says, well, call your chief. He knows what's going on. Call your sergeant. So now you just confirmed that there's a conspiracy here with
from the top,
this being done. And, you're just name dropping and using influence for the cops to look the other way.
I worked at BSO for 30 years. I mean, if you got a call about a mentally unstable person driving around, you would stop her.
Yeah, she's trying to kill herself or anything like that. But regardless, I'm not going to stop somebody.
I'm not asking to stop her. I'm saying.
And then the officers don't ID anybody on the scene. They don't check for Baker Act forms. They don't run licenses. They don't even check my ID. They never, and then what people don't see is Dr. Bova's on the phone. So I had somebody a counselor that I started with essentially for grief counseling because I lost my aunt to pancreatic cancer. And I was dealing with grief, not because I was depressed or anything, but because she left behind a child who's my little cousin who's 9. And so this was a child who was with me every day, who I was helping with homework. And I didn't know how to help him with his grief. And so even though I was a social worker, believe it or not, I didn't know how to deal with that because I don't have kids. I was in my early 20s when that happened. I'm now responsible for taking care of my elderly grandfather with Alzheimer's, dealing with a child whose mother just died of cancer. It's also affecting me because she taught me how to read, write, and raising me as a child as well. She lived in my grandfather's home. So I was like, you know what? I'm busy with my clients and social work. I don't want to get burnt. Social workers, we tend to get burned out at work. And
it's a hard job. It's tough.
Exactly. I was like, I don't want to get burned out. Let me book counseling. Let me do grief counseling so I can have somebody to talk about everything, work-life balance, and really take care of myself. It's really important when you're in that field to take care of yourself. That doctor has never diagnosed me with anything at all, ever. And she was already seeing me for 3 years because even though she helped with the grief stuff, then I ended up liking counseling. So I would go once a month just to talk to her. Like, it's like having a professional best friend to walk you through certain things in life, right? And I was dealing with a lot. Like, I was seeing the man who raised me deteriorate in front of my eyes, going through Alzheimer's, being diabetic.
That's really hard and
very,
hurtful.
very, very hard thing, right? So I was like, you're not my physician. I have a doctor. Call her. That's when you guys see him walk away. And she tells him she does not meet criteria. I spoke to her as early as yesterday. She's not suicidal. She's never been suicidal. And she doesn't have a mental illness. I do not support this. And he was like, come on, you guys don't hear this. But she wrote a letter and she wants to remain private because she doesn't want her patients to feel like they can't go to her because now she's exposed. So I won't say her name. But her letter's on the public record, and I think we crossed it out. But if you do get it, just cross it out because she's worried about her patients feeling like their confidentiality won't be protected with this news story now because this crazy doctor, right? Dr. Daniel Bobar. But he tells her, come on, Dr. So-and-so, you have to help me here. She's like, I'm not helping you. I'm not putting my license and my ethics on the line to lie. If you want to
wait, hold on, pause. Sorry.
Yeah, he asked.
Wait, hold on, pause. So the doctor that Desiree hired,
Daniel Bobar, allegedly,
who is it alleged that he lied or he just caught in a lie by saying he evaluated you at a certain time where you have a whole ass alibi, you out there with the cops on the body cam, and he said he was evaluating you. Okay, I don't know if that's a lie or not. Maybe he just lost his watch. That guy that your mom hired never looked at you, never treated you, showed up, told police you needed to be taken away, and then he got on the phone with your actual doctor, and he said, come on, you have to help me out?
My counselor, yes, who told him she has no mental illness. I've been seeing her for 3 years. She has no diagnosis. She started off coming to me for grief. And now it's more like work-life balance stuff, like normal stuff. She doesn't have a diagnosis. She's stressed sometimes like normal human beings, right? Because she has a very stressful, I literally was working with people who were seeking asylum for being like raped in the border and stuff. And so like she has a very stressful job. So she's seeing me for that once a month. And she's never been a threat to herself or others. She does not meet criteria. And then he asked her that. And she's like, nope, I am not putting my name on that. If you want to do that, go ahead. Go ahead.
He said, you have to come on, help me out. Help this. What does that mean? What does he mean? Explain it to me. Like, I have no idea. How would it be helping him though?
I think like maybe he would have offered her something if she would have said yes, or, he was making it seem like he had no choice, that this was something that my mom, was pushing him to do. And he had to, that's how he was talking, allegedly, right? We don't know. But I just remember her, she was on speaker. What people don't know is that the phone, I put it on speaker so I could hear. So she was like, I'm not doing that. I'm not signing my ethics and my license. I'm an ethical doctor. She does not meet criteria. I don't care what her mother's telling you.
Period.
And so, yeah, and I love her, right? Because she's one of the few who wasn't bought. And she's a very respected counselor here in Florida. So then I told police to talk to her, and they didn't want to talk to her. They were like, no, we don't need to talk to her. He's the doctor. I'm like, he's not my doctor. That's what the full body cam was showing. I'll show you that. And then I even go as far as saying, like, you were paid by my mother. And he's like, every doctor is paid.
I can go home today, correct?
Go to the hospital.
You're going to go to the hospital first.
If the evaluation turns out fine, then I can just...
Well,
you can discharge me.
We got to get started
And I can't request another doctor since you were called by my mother?
Hey, listen.
I'm just asking.
Any doctor that you go to, you have to pay money to, right?
I'd rather pay.
If you go to an OBGYN, you have to pay the money.
That's
right?
fine. I can pay any doctor. I don't like the conflict of interest. So can I request another doctor to do the evaluation?
You can request a doctor to do a second
Okay, and can I call my lawyer?
When you get to the hospital, yeah.
I saw him say that somewhere. Oh, that aggravated me.
Yep. And so basically they did. By law, they abducted me.
Yeah.
Because they weren't a registered, there's no medical crisis unit. And so the police assisted with that. So to answer your question, like how complicit law enforcement, law enforcement were negligent. Law enforcement were not trained. Law enforcement, I'm alleging essentially in my complaint that they were paid, influenced, and pushed to do what they did, both in my case and in my husband's case. Body cams will speak for itself. Receipts will speak for itself.
Guys, I know it was a weird one.
Yeah, of course.
You guys be safe.
Take care. No worries. Sir, pleasure. Sir, take care.
Take care, guys. Appreciate it.
We even have, because here in Florida, you can do a public records request. And you
Right. The Sunshine Law.
The Sunshine State. Shout out to the state of Florida for that. I will give them their credit for that because it has been
Shout out to the Sunshine Act.
The Sunshine Act. And so everything that I'm saying comes with receipts, and you will see that some of these police officers, some of these doctors, if not all, but some, I'm going to say allegedly some, right? We have proof that were complicit in being bought, pressured, influenced, allegedly. And that's my answer really to your question about, do I think law enforcement was helpful? I think the only people who believed me were like the nurses at the hospital, but those are small people in the hierarchy.
They don't have the power to what are they going to do? Like
They were trying, by the way, they were trying very hard to call supervisors, to call the head of this, and they would come. But Bobar would essentially ignore them, not listen to them. And so it became really difficult. But even the staff at Life Skills, they were doing their best and putting a paper trail. Nothing is wrong with her, acting good. Like they did their due diligence to defend me on a paper trail. And they were telling Bobar, but
they were still holding you in there and not letting you to leave.
Right. And so, because remember, these are the little people. They don't have control.
Right.
So the little people are doing their job and trying to advocate.
Yeah.
But they don't have that much weight and power. And so that's why I'm suing Life Skills, because it's the higher ups. It's like, you're aware that this is going on. Your staff is reaching out to you. You're ignoring your staff. You're complicit. You're negligent in this. Like, shame on you, Life Skills, for seeing everything that's going on and keeping me there. Shame on you, Memorial Hospital. I have a negative talk screen. You should have let me walk out. I don't care if he's ignoring you. Call the owner of the damn hospital. Do what you have to do. And so, yeah, that's my answer to like how involved they were.
So there were people, doctors or rather nurses, people kind of like lower on the pecking order of power who were trying to help and who did what the best they could do with the little power that they did have.
Yes, they did their notes, and those notes helped me because it's a paper trail, and I've been able to, I submitted that in my amended complaint. Like, she looks normal, has no drugs, doesn't meet criteria. Like, they were doing what they could do, you know? But when you're like an RN at a Memorial Hospital and you're going against the chief, it's very hard. It's very hard. And so that's what I want people to understand. This needs to be investigated because the Baker Act and the Marchment, but specifically the Baker, needs to be rewritten where there needs to be multiple physicians signing off on this, and not one guy, one chief, being able to have the power to ignore. It shouldn't be that. They should have 4 people evaluate somebody before they Baker Act, really.
It's so serious to take away somebody's freedom to move about. This is the land of the free. Allegedly, since we like that word today. Like, it is such a serious thing. Like you said, it was abduction by law, allegedly innocent until proven guilty. Like, it's a kidnap. Get in this unmarked gray truck right now. We have guns and tasers. Like, what? This is taking people's liberty. And it's like, I think there's something to be said for rewriting these laws. But I also think before or in addition to that, these people, they're breaking laws. Like, that's the thing that's got me so stuck here, is that the people on the lower levels of the power structure, right, not lower levels of obviously, people, but the people that are kind of closer to in the hierarchy, closer to like normal people, like down here, like we don't have a lot of power. We don't have the software to be mirroring somebody's phone and all that, or even to allow someone to leave out of a hospital. Like, these are modern day asylum prisons. Okay. Like, they call them treatment centers, but you yourself, someone who's never touched any illicit substance, I heard you say in an interview, you gotta be category 5 headache to even take a freaking Tylenol. And so if somebody to that extent and to that degree of like, don't use drugs at all, can be abducted, aka kidnapped, by force of law because there were cops there. I saw that footage by that marina, went nowhere you could go.
No,
There
and they
wasn't an
threatened
option.
to put me under arrest if I didn't go. So I want people to understand that I was forced. They said
You were literally forced by the law.
And just so everybody's aware, it's a miracle that my dog was there. The only reason I was like, okay, this over jail, because if my dog wasn't there, I'd be like, you're taking me to jail because I'm not going to a hospital. Is because they threatened to put my dog in a shelter. And anybody who loves dogs and has a dog and is a fur baby mom or whatever, and I'm trying to keep it together because
it's just maniacal. It's diabolical.
It's so abusive what happened. And those officers were really horrible. Like, if you see the snippet of how they treated me, I was just like, please, can you please check? Like, please, like this, I don't know this man. Please, like, I don't understand what is going on. And we don't know either. You need to come, like, yelling at me. And
they always act like they don't know.
Yeah.
Oh, we don't know.
And so what I want people to understand is it was that they threatened me with taking me to jail and putting my dog in a shelter. And then the hospital option was, if you go to the hospital, we'll have a family member pick up the dog. So I really did it for my dog. Because I didn't want her to go into a shelter. So that's why I think it's like the universe made my dog be there so that I wouldn't end up in a jail. But yeah.
That is insane that you could have gone to a jail.
Yeah, I know.
For doing nothing. And I mean, I understand, you don't want to get emotional on camera and stuff. I don't want to tell you what to do. But being emotional is like a totally normal response, because not only have you experienced this truly trauma, then you have this guy you never freaking met in your life saying, if she don't want to take the drugs, just put them in just inject them in her muscle. Lithium, Benadryl. You don't even take a Tylenol.
Yeah, he wanted to essentially like drug me up to make me drowsy and be able to talk. And what I want people to know is the nurses never gave me any medications. They refused.
That's good.
They never did. They thought, yeah. And so I'm so grateful to those small in the hierarchy of the corporate hospital. They didn't. But I think it's important that you're highlighting that he ordered that, because that means that more than likely, allegedly, he has drugged people that do not meet criteria to be drugged. And that is very scary. He changed my diagnosis 4 times. He put like first psychosis.
He diagnosed you without even seeing you.
Put psychosis, drug addict, schizophrenia, hallucinations, like a whole bunch of stuff. And if you do Google research, you don't even have to be a doctor. You will not be medicating somebody or sending Benadryl. He ordered Benadryl, Tylenol, and lithium.
Lithium is bad. Well, listen, take it if directed by your doctor, y'all. But that's what Britney Spears, she said no to a dance move in her residency. She said immediately the next day, my doctor put me on lithium. It was so powerful. I felt like I was drunk. I couldn't even talk. I couldn't even talk to my parents. I couldn't do anything because she said no to a dance move. It's like these parents, this unchecked power. And this is a time to tell your story. But I do want to highlight it can happen to anybody. And a lot of times people are like, I don't care about somebody that's addicted. Let them get put over there. They probably need it or whatever. But like, okay, fine. What about it can happen to somebody that's not even in a psychosis? You are out there minding your business, trying to go have a business, literally minding your literal business, trying to do a business thing. And police with guns and tasers show up and you have to get in an unmarked gray truck to go to be, for all they knew, forcibly drugged. For all they knew, they were sending you off to be drugged. And they were just talking like, I don't know anything. Y'all, we got to do something about it. It's too much. It's too much. That's my opinion. And then your mom tried to get a guardianship. What were you thinking? I mean, whenever you, it's like first your husband and then the baker and then the marksman and then this.
It was
now she tries a guardianship.
It was attack after attack. I think you're the only person who posted that. And I'm so grateful to you for posting that, because what people I don't think have heard me say is that has to be the scariest part of what happened to me, was receiving a guardianship petition, because I instantly thought about Britney Spears. And so I don't, I know as much as the public knows from just reading blogs and the documentary and everything, but what I want people to understand is, so I was Baker acted illegally, Marchman acted illegally, then I'm in a facility, my husband's getting arrested multiple times illegally. The purpose of having me committed was to avoid me from testifying so that they can charge him with something. By the grace of God, it didn't happen. But there's cases and there's situations where there's people sitting in prison who don't deserve to be, but that's all I'll say about that. But I got lucky in the situation that my husband had an amazing attorney by the name of Naeem Hassan, who's phenomenal. If you're in
Shout out
Miami,
Naeem Hassan.
if you're in Miami, hire him. Like, he is God sent, and he did his due diligence and whatever. My husband was able to win. But while I was going through the Baker, the Marchman, she was very proactive and smart in that usually when the court grants a Marchman and a Baker, it's really easy to get a guardianship because they think you meet criteria. So of course she filed for guardianship. She petitioned for it, but it didn't go anywhere, obviously, because I'm not incapacitated. And because once I hired a lawyer, and she saw that I was fighting the Marchman, and she saw that I was fighting, that I was going to fight the Marchman Act, and I had a lawyer and I had the proof. And then while I was in there, she had Homeland Security, the feds,
Right.
come visit
The
me.
human trafficking
The
thing.
human trafficking thing. So once one of the doctors there, Dr. Despina, sat with me in the interview and saw all the proof that I have, and she not kind of, in front of me, called Dr. Bobar to tell him this is not looking good. And he even apologized to me. He did. I don't have proof of that, but he did. He did on the phone.
What did he apologize for?
He said, "I'm so sorry. I didn't know. I was just going by what your mom said."
Well, then that's an admission.
I know, but because we don't have proof, so
It's not on,
yeah,
allegedly.
but
That's your memory.
Yeah, I'm like, guys, I'm letting you know that did happen. He spoke to me on Dr. Despina's phone, her cell phone from Life Skills. And so I just went along with it's okay at the moment because I was still in Life Skills and I wanted to leave. So you have to understand, I don't want to make my capturer and abductor that facilitated all of this upset. So I'm just like,
right.
No, okay, yeah, like saying okay. That very next day, my mom voluntarily dismissed the Marchman Act. And then with that, the guardianship didn't go anywhere, obviously, because I'm not incapacitated. And they even listed one of the witnesses on the guardianship as my former boss, who she also paid to get me fired.
Iconic creative.
Yeah, Liz Frahella, yeah. Which is crazy in itself. So yeah, the guardianship was scary because I thought about Britney. And if you know anything, you know that if somebody wins a and Wendy Williams, if you know anything about what's going on with them, you know that if a judge grants that, you lose all your rights.
It's almost impossible to ever get out.
It's literally a prison. And so it was very scary. And it was like, wow, like this could happen to me. This could happen to anybody. Like, what is going on with our system? Like, something needs to be changed. It shouldn't be so easy to file for a guardianship. It shouldn't be so easy to get a judge to sign off on a Marchman Act with no proof. Like if it happened to me, guys, it's happening to other people. We really need to investigate. Something needs to be done. Laws need to be rewritten. And the people that are conspiring to make this happen, Dr. Daniel Bobar, Desiree Perez, CEO of Roc Nation, Alan Levine, who was my mother's attorney who did the Marchman Act, any judges, the police officers, James Fondo, Jessica Caddy, Stephen Caddy, all these people who participate in this need to be in jail or need to be held accountable. Something needs to happen for this to stop because, again, I'm not saying I'm better than anybody by no means, but I didn't meet criteria, and that's the reality. I wasn't supposed to be there. Not because I'm better than anybody, it's just because, guys, I did not meet criteria. So if it happened to me, it happened to you. And so that's what I have to say about the guardianship. It was scary, very scary. I never imagined myself to ever be served with a petition for guardianship. My stomach, like just talking about it now, makes me a little bit nervous. Like that somebody could file that, like it's that easy to file. without any real proof. Like, it's
And
crazy.
especially in Florida, they allow people to say, like, I'm a loved one. I have a right. She even says this, Desiree, in her motion to dismiss. She says, I have a right
I'm
under
a
the Marchman Act.
grown woman. I'm not a minor. And I
She
haven't
says
lived
she
with
has a right under the Marchman Act to have called and did all that stuff. And so because she did it in good faith, because she had a right to do it, then she can't be, held responsible for it. It's shocking that people think they have rights to other people's rights.
It's shocking that a parent would think that they have that much control and rights over a grown person, a grown adult. I'm 30. I was 29 when all this was happening. So I was still an adult. And it's crazy that the law and the mental health courts would deem a parent of a 29-year-old to have that much control and not check. Hey, do a simple research. Demoree hasn't lived with her mother since 2017. So, and she lives in New York. So, are we not
It truly
vetting?
is one of the most absolutely egregious, and I've seen a lot of these, one of the most egregious cases in just the amount of evidence you, your team, your lawyers have been able to compile and put together and to lay out the story of, like, let's start with, she had a camera in your room facing the toilet. Let's start with that. Let's start with the phone clone, the watch clone, every message, changing things, making fake footage, fake pictures. It is one of the most scary and egregious affronts that I've seen, allegedly. I don't know. Everybody's innocent until proven guilty and all of that. But I am very happy to help you to share this experience, because it's I feel like it's also my purpose to shed light on this stuff, that it happens. Generally, yes, I am fighting for the rights of people who do have addictions, who have struggled in the past with them. But absolutely, absolutely, like, before you can even get there, why don't you qualify by ever having taken a drug in your life? Like, if a person who literally don't even drink a soda, I am happy to help to share the story. So you've sued. You have your second amended complaint. We're waiting for some things to be, courts slow. Why did you sue? What do you hope the outcome will be in general? And I'm sure you're trying to do it through this lawsuit, but in any way, what do you want? What do you wish to accomplish from the lawsuit, and hope that it will, for your own self, right? I mean, systems and weapons and systems and things, but just for you, what are you hoping to be able to do with the lawsuit? Because it's not easy. It's not fun to be in a lawsuit, suing or getting sued.
No. So I think what I want people to know as well, and Hilton, this is public record, provided that information in some of the motions that they filed in response. So people will find out through there. But for the people who don't have the capabilities to download Pacer, the reason why it took a year is because we were working behind the scenes to have sit-down conversations with her, to involve attorneys, to try to resolve it, because I was still trying to give her grace as having the title of my mother. I was still trying to do that, because what people don't understand, it's not just my mother. We're 6 siblings. I lost my brothers and sisters to this. My grandmother died 2 months ago. Now, as recently as 2 days ago, which you probably saw on my Twitter, she has blocked my number. I can't contact my grandfather. She's not allowing me to see him. That has been the most painful thing. I think that that's worse.
Does she have a guardianship over him?
So she has power of attorney. So I've now had to hire another lawyer to file something in family that I'm working on. So I think that that's the worst thing that she has ever done to me. And like I say, hurt me, hurt my husband, but you're hurting my grandfather, because he's 90 with Alzheimer's and he still knows me. And I called him every other day for the last year since this has happened. And so I have like cleaning ladies telling me that he asks about me every day, but they were told that if they can connect me to him, that they'll get fired. So I just, I spent a year trying to, behind the scenes, give her grace as my mother and try to come up with a solution and something where she can stop attacking us and doing these things, because I was trying to salvage this relationship with my siblings. I have a niece that was just born 6 months ago that I've never met because of this. My grandmother died 2 months ago. I wasn't able to go to her funeral. Now I can't even talk or see my grandfather. Like, I'm losing my family, like the people that I grew up with, because of this. And so I did my due diligence behind the scenes. And just when we thought we were going to work things out, she sues my husband on April 8th, 2025 for a frivolous lawsuit. So at that point I was like, she's forcing me to defend myself. And what is the number one thing that a narcissistic person cares about is their image. And so that's why I had to go out to the media. That's why I had to file the lawsuit, because I saw that her ego and her image were more important than her relationship with me, which is terrible. But it's a hard pill that I had to swallow. And then the icing on the cake, I didn't think she could do anything worse, was what she's doing to my grandfather. And so now that's solidified, like, Demoree, you did good suing, you did good fighting back, and you did good exposing her. Because as crazy as all the trauma she's put us through, because I'm so innocent, I think very innocently, and I have a good heart. For a while, I was like, did I make the right decision in suing my own mother? Oh my God, is the world going to think I'm like this horrible person? And the world actually responded exactly how my attorney said, uplifting me, supporting me, and understanding me. And there's so many people that actually have abusive parents or narcissistic parents that are like, no, you're not alone. And they understand me. I didn't think I was going to be so seen. And I'm grateful. I want to say thank you to everybody who's reached out and as praying, because I don't feel alone. And I love the messages. I read them. I reply, because I'm not this high profile person, so I appreciate it. But I tried. I really did. And her doing the thing of what my grandfather really solidified that I needed to do this lawsuit and I needed to take it to the media, because all she cares about is her image, her title as the CEO of Roc Nation. That's why she's shadow banning people, reporting posts, trying to get people's accounts shut down, intimidating people. And so I had to do it, guys. My goal is for her to just stop this. Like, peace, justice, obviously, all those doctors, everybody needs to be held accountable, right? So justice, but really for myself, peace. Like, I need to live a peaceful life and not worry about if a court processor is going to sue us for some stupid thing that we didn't do, or worry about if an investigator is going to be following me to a dance recital for one of our nephews, or like, just I don't want to look over my shoulder to think that you're sending somebody because you want to intimidate me because I'm on here talking in an interview. Like, just peace. Like, you live your life. I've tried. Clearly you don't care about our relationship. If you did it to me, I can imagine how many people you're doing it to. So just peace, justice, and to see and be able to speak to my grandfather now. I never thought I would have to say that as my goal, but it's now a goal as recently as 3 days. And so that's why I'm posting videos. What you guys can do to help me is repost and reshare, since we're being shadow banned and since big, powerful media outlets are refusing to report on it. So reshare, because a narcissist doesn't like her image to be tainted and exposed. And I think she needs that so she can stop. Let me see my grandfather. Let me talk to him. Like, stop with the nonsense. Like, for me to have to take this to family court is ridiculous. And what people don't understand is she's hurting me more than she's hurting my husband. And I'm her daughter. Like, what did I do to you? I don't understand. What did I do to you? Just because I don't want to do what you say, or because I married the person.
That's the question. I mean, what exactly is, what's the problem? Why is she so determined to separate? You said you've been together forever, like more than half your life. This is your high school sweetheart. This is your husband. You've been together since you were just kids. So, why is she so determined?
I think it's a mixture of racism, classism, and she never thought we were going to last. In the very beginning, she didn't like him just because from the neighborhood where he was born, which is, it's so hypocritical, because she was not born in the best neighborhood and was a drug trafficker, and she was just judging him for being black and being born in a bad neighborhood, and just judgmental. But then as we grew up, she just assumed we were going to break up and not last. And then I think after college, when she realized, okay, he's not going anywhere, she actually offered him a position in Roc Nation, and she actually offered me a position and wanted us to move there and work there, and we said no. And as
Good.
you can imagine, when you say no to somebody who's all about power and control, they take
Because
insult.
y'all probably knew what was going to happen as soon as you started working there. So they're going to be all in your business. You going to be on the Roc Nation phone. No.
Yeah, so I think it's really about power and control. She doesn't like that my husband's a very independent, free thinker and free speaker. He does not conform to what society norms are. He has different beliefs. You know, he went to the University of Connecticut with a full scholarship for D1 football. He could have gone to the NFL. He never wanted to go to the NFL. He thinks that the NFL, I don't want to speak for him, but he thinks the system within the NFL is not in the best favor for black athletes, right? And him being as a black man, he didn't like how that system is set up there. Imagine being a person to think like that and speak like that. It's kind of the opposite of what the normal, typical person you would think would speak. And so she didn't like that. And so he's uplifted me, educated me, just like I have for him. And so her seeing, oh man, like he can influence her possibly more than me, or, you know, he's showing her a different side of the world that maybe I don't want her to know. Like, that can be threatening for somebody who's always had control over a person. She's very much had control over me my whole life, right? Usually parents do. And so I think she felt threatened by him and insulted. And then at the same time, she wanted him to, like, oh, you can make more money and you can make millions of dollars as opposed to what you're doing now. Because she really cares about money and status. And so I think she didn't like that too. Like, she wanted me to be with a millionaire and, oh, date this person and go here. And so it's really just about power, control, classism, and just like your typical like narcissistic parent. Like, I want this from you and this is what I envision. And if you go left, oh man, you must be getting abused. You must be getting coerced, because why on earth
wouldn't you be doing what I say?
Yes. It's really just that. And
that's the thing, when I'm reading through her law filings, it's like whoever's writing this really must believe it, or they're really good liars. It's like they're living in the Delulu land, or they're just so good at lying, because it's like it just doesn't add up. And the stuff they're saying and kind of like admitting to, like, it's total, like, excuse me, explain how you got those recordings that you're referring to.
Not only that, you have to understand, people don't understand, when lawyers get paid a lot of money, when people get, not just lawyers, when people get paid a lot of money, that's when you see who's ethical, who's not, and who sells their souls and who's not. It's really sad, but it's really all about the money. And, you know, lawyers are supposed to do what their client says. You're dealing with a control freak who has a lot of money. I can't even imagine what those lawyers are going through. I can't even imagine, because I've seen it in real time how she talks to some of her lawyers. So I'm not surprised.
So how can we support you? How can people support you? I know you said sharing your shadow band, sharing the things that you're sharing, amplifying the message. What else can people do to support you through this? And I guess I'm thinking, like, is there anywhere we can report some of these people? Is that something you're working on, or?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So number one, that my Instagram is Shadowband. Guys, go on my Instagram, follow it, comment, repost. It's at Blackbird0527. I'll send it to you to pin under. And I'm not telling people to follow me because I want followers. I'm telling you guys to follow me.
Because you're Shadowband, and it's to get the message out.
And I want to get this message out. So that's why. This is not for clout. This, by the way, this is the first time in my years of social media that my page is public. So that goes to
Oh, really?
Never had a public page in my life. So I did it because I need the story to get out for justice and everything. So really following my Instagram, reposting it, resharing, sharing as many platforms. If you know somebody who has a nice platform, like you do, like referring me, I'll do lives, I'll do interviews up until I can, right? Unless a court orders me to stop. Just really getting the word out. That's the best way you can really help. And then as far as complaints, we're working on that. I'm going to see if we can incorporate the public too. That's a good question that made me think. I'm going to get to my attorney on that and see.
Yeah, I mean, people are like, very often, you know, there's petitions, but like there's complaints on licenses. There's like, there's ways to mobilize that's legal and is peaceful and is the appropriate route, right? Like this is why these hotlines exist. This is why, I mean, if they can call Department of Homeland Security on you, who can we start reporting some of these people to for body brokering, etc.? For an investigation. We don't know, that's why we have to report things to the appropriate authorities. And I love to report somebody. Personally, the Karen comes right out. Will be ready to speak to a manager immediately. So
I'm gonna get that info for you guys because we have filed some things, like me and my attorney and team. But that's a good question, the public. I know that the public was already doing some other things that I'm not going to say on here because I do not need to be accused of conspiring in that because I had no idea that was even happening behind the scenes. So
let's not include anybody else then, girl. Just let's only talk for ourselves then.
Yeah, I'm going to ask my attorney, and then if there is, then I'll share it with you to share it with the platform.
And I'll reach out to a few YouTube acquaintances, friends of the channel, and see if we can't get you on some more platforms to amplify the message even further. I mean, everybody's place is like a different vibe. You get to talk about a different aspect. I'm sure you're starting to realize like, oh, this is a different angle, a different facets of all the same kind of thing. So I'll definitely reach out to people too and see if we can't get you moving through the independent
I appreciate that.
Circuit.
No, I appreciate that. And I really admire your focus on really the mental health component of the institutions and how disgusting it is, because when you think about something as fragile as an individual's mental health, and when you think about something fragile as drug addiction, which is an illness, I know people don't want to admit it is. It's an illness. It's a sickness to be addicted to drugs. I've seen it. I've seen people with withdrawals. I was in a place for 14 days. I got to see it. It's very different.
Right.
You expect this to happen in the criminal justice system, unfortunately. You do not expect this to happen within mental health, within the healthcare system, and, like I said, addiction/illnesses. So I admire you because I think you are the only platform that I know that discusses researches and speaks out loud about it. I think there's this what is it? Like almost this like societal pressure or embarrassment to have conversations about mental health and drugs and drug addiction when there really shouldn't. We should be having dialogues about this.
Everybody got it in their family. 100% of people in this country have somebody in their family that's struggling or affected by this addiction, whether they somebody married in. Everybody.
It's such a fragile thing that people are scared to talk about. And so I think it's great that you're talking about it. But most importantly, I think it's great that you're highlighting that in my situation, it was 100% abused.
Right.
I'm not an addict. I'm not nothing. It's terrible.
It seems like the laws were literally weaponized. Like they used them as a weapon and they broke laws to use these laws. It seems to me, I don't know, innocent or proven guilty, but this is just so beyond. Beyond. You don't even have to argue like, oh, let's lock addicts up. Okay, wait, hold on, stop. Before we even talking about that, what about somebody that has a hair follicle test that comes negative for everything and never touches drugs and don't even drink soda? Let's start there.
It's disgusting. So, but what I really want to highlight, because my case for you and your platform is so black and white easy, like that.
So easy.
That it's easy. But what I want people to hear me say is I admire her for talking about the people who actually might need some type of assistance because they're still experiencing abuse of the law in certain ways.
They are.
Don't get me wrong. There's certain people that she's talked about, right, allegedly, that might need mental health services or need to be in a rehab or need to be in a facility. But there's also patterns with those cases or whatever that you were sharing with me where the laws were still abused. And so just because it's an addict doesn't mean we should look the other way. I think we need to look both at addicts and people who are mentally ill situation and my situation. And as a whole, somebody have a sit down and say, well, wait a minute. We need to change X, Y, and Z of how this law is written because look, it's easy to maneuver in a case, obviously in a case where there's a drug addict and a mentally ill person, but now, especially in a case where this girl has nothing. So I think you get what I'm saying? I think these conversations are hand in hand and they need to be discussed.
And then there's this other component, like let's say someone does or doesn't have a mental disorder. You stay in one of these places 90 days, you might leave out of there with one you never had. Just from the trauma of being drugged, of being forced, of being fed this poisonous food, allegedly. Just being in there in this place, it's like you might leave out of there with a mental illness if you didn't go in with one. It's kind of like the school to prison pipeline. It's like institutionalizing people from innocent people from a time period where they didn't do anything to deserve that. But then by the time they get out of it, it's like you've institutionalized people. You're putting people in asylums. It's 2025. They putting people in asylums. They call them treatment centers.
I commend you for having the tough conversation, bringing up questions that make people think outside of the box, and really calling out and saying, hey guys, we need to talk about this. There's injustices going on, and it shouldn't be happening to people who need it and people who don't need it, especially. It shouldn't be happening at all. And everything should be investigated, from the hospitals to the people to the courts to everything that's going on needs to be looked at, because
and held accountable.
That's
the thing. People got to start having some consequences. Period.
We can't allow something as fragile as our health care to be abused in this matter. So I commend you for having the conversations and thinking outside of the box and creating dialogue with your audience and doing your research. I really commend you for that.
Thank you.
And I appreciate you for doing that, because it's allowed me to come on here, share my experience, and for people to really see this is scary and can happen to them. So I do commend you.
It is terrifying. I'm so sorry to hear the whole story. I'm sure I only know a very small part. I'm sure it's very exhausting to continue repeating it, especially some of these more newer things that have happened that you're still processing. And for sure, you'll always, you can always come over here if you want to come back and just have a TMZ special. I found that aspect of the story interesting. But little slight, like it's slightly lighter hearted, but it's not. It's like the media won't listen to stories of abuse. But again, like I said, we can pick that up later. Thank you so much for coming on the channel, and I'll have the links below. We'll try to get you on some more channels, and definitely rooting for you. If you can't talk about a lawsuit, and she did not ask me to say this, I'm saying this on my own free will. But if somebody gags you, it's going to definitely give me a very large incentive to then have to be talking about it. And I will say whatever I want, and nobody can stop me from saying what I want.
Thank you. I appreciate you. Thank you. I really think I was shout out to Twitter for connecting me to you. I really appreciate it.
Right there it is. Amen. And you know what my motto is right now? As long as you just do the right thing every chance you get, probably everything's going to work out.
Yeah. No, I think I believe that too. That's why I was like nonchalant about coming on here. I'm like, well, if I'm telling you the truth, what could happen?
I'm pretty docile. I mean, I don't have a manager. I don't have a production team. I have one editor. I make money on YouTube, and it 100% all goes to legal fees. So I'm not, you do have to be careful, but you have, the person who raised you has prepared you to know what to watch out for in the world. And you probably have an excellent discernment and intuition and pattern recognition and BS detector and ancestors with you and all of that, so I don't like when people tell me, be careful, shut up, careful of what? No one's gonna hurt me. No one's gonna do nothing to me.
Listen, no one's God,
period.
Period. Yeah, no one's
there. God. It is. So okay, so we'll close it there. You're welcome back anytime. And yeah, y'all, it really happens. There's receipts. So go check that out. Support Demoree in any way that you can. And the links are below. Facts ain't defamation. Neither are opinions. Everyone is innocent until proven guilty. And these are just our thoughts, opinions, beliefs, and experiences. Love you, Mina K. Bye. And there you have it. And if you found this to be compelling, I do encourage you to go and follow Demoree. She is always posting new updates. And I can tell you as of Friday, June 13th, 2025, there has been an aggressive attempt to silence Demoree. They're trying to keep her from being able to speak about the things that have been done to her. And it is with some of the most powerful lawyers that exist today. Period, anywhere in the world. So I'm sure she could use all the help she could get. Like I said, everyone's innocent until proven guilty. These are allegations based on Demoree's first-hand lived experiences. And I don't personally know. I can't personally attest to any of it because I wasn't there. But I'm very much looking forward to following along in the lawsuit. And that's all I really had for this one. In the meantime, facts ain't defamation and neither are opinions, girl. Love you, mean it. Okay, bye.